I've been drowning so long, I can't seem to breathe. Lost in my mind, shadows, I can't find relief. Dragged down by the weight of what's in my head. I want to be stronger and rise up instead. Now I've been learning to heal, I've been facing the storm. And the clouds are parted, the weight is gone, and I believe.
So we're back. Before I start, I just thought I'd just do a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm not feeling too great at the moment. I've got the seasonal October cold. It's on its way out. But I kind of toed and throwed with, am I going to do this video today? I plan to do it in my diary. As a therapist, I don't have a lot of space in my diary to do these videos. So I kind of felt like, no, you weren't meant to be sick today. But we keep going, which I know is a contradiction to my previous video where I said we need to rest. We do. I have rested. But if I look a little bit swollen and starry-eyed, and it's because I'm on the back end of a cold. But anyway, it's all good. So I wanted to say thank you so much to everybody that sent in questions. I put a call out, I think it was my very first informal video, to trainee therapists about any questions that they had that they wanted to send me for me to answer on what to expect when you start seeing clients, how does it feel when you first start seeing clients, all these questions that, you know, you do your training and then suddenly you get into the year where you're starting clients and they start client work probably that first month that you go back into that year. And I can remember, and I've experienced with other people as well, where it's just suddenly, oh my goodness, I'm seeing clients, what, and all these questions just start to churn around in your head. Something that you've kind of had at the back burner all through the beginning of your training, but you're kind of thinking, oh, I've got plenty of time, and then boom, it's here. So thank you to everybody that reached out. Thank you for everybody that emailed, and I'm gonna do my best to answer your questions from my perspective and my opinion as a therapist who's been in private practice for a few years now, just to kind of bring some clarity and maybe some guidance or some inspiration as well. Also, if anybody is watching this and feels they want to add anything in, or, you know, add some of their experiences and they didn't want to contact through the email, pop it down in the comments below. And hopefully this can be a video where any trainee therapists at the moment, but in the future as well, get to kind of find out what they can expect. Okay, so let's get into it. At the moment, I am 2 phones Sally, so I've got all the questions written down here. So first of all, I wanted to say about when I first started training, there was a really good Facebook group that I came across called Counselling Tutor. And they're on Facebook. They also, I believe, have a YouTube channel with some videos as well. But they are a really good platform. Internationally, it's not just for UK trainees. And it's a really good platform where, well, the name says it all, Counselling Tutor. So all trainees, students of all various counselling modalities are on that platform. They've got thousands of members, and you can pretty much ask any question you want, be it theory-based, be it client-based, and many qualified therapists are still on the channel, so a few of them will kind of comment back, or the admins will comment back, or fellow students that are at a higher level than where you are at that present time will comment back as well. So what I found really helpful was getting all these different platforms around me. Counselling Tutor was the number one for me while I was training. It's now gone on to, there's a quite a few Facebook groups as well for qualified therapists. They are an experience in itself. I remember when I went into my training, I went in with kind of a very naive mindset that all students on the course, and therefore all counsellors and therapists in the world, would be just lovely, warm, understanding, empathetic people, non-judgmental. And while that is the case, a lot of the time, it's very, very interesting to see how therapists kind of respond and comment once they're qualified. And, you know, we all know about the ego. The ego comes into it a lot of the time. And so what I would say is to find forums, platforms that you identify with and you feel are your tribe and your people. And if you come across different platforms where you've asked questions and you've kind of been made to feel a bit stupid for asking that question, find a different platform. You know, sometimes when people make comments back to us as professionals, it can be very triggering. It can make you feel very vulnerable because it can almost attack the ego, I guess, but it can attack your professionalism in a way where you feel I should have known that, or that was a stupid question. And that is something to work through in supervision and your personal counselling as well, because as therapists, you know, to be a good enough therapist, my opinion is you need to always feel new in a way. You need to always be learning. You know, some of the best therapists are newly qualified therapists because they're eager, because they're raw, because their ego is not inflated and big. And I think the client feels that. And so this also takes me back to a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to go with a trainee therapist, especially when you access organizations like KICS. There is nothing wrong with going with a trainee therapist. Some of the trainee therapists are phenomenal. I would say better than some qualified. I know, therapy please, going to come for me. But because, you know, the majority of therapists, I know Carl Jung, I think it was Carl Jung that said, we're wounded healers. Majority of us have had our own journeys. We've had our own struggles. We've worked through things, which has taken us to that place where we've decided we want to go into this as a profession and help. And so, you know, if you see a trainee therapist, the same rule applies to if you're seeing a qualified therapist, which is if you click with that person and you feel heard and that relationship, that therapeutic relationship is good and it's there, then brilliant. And the same can apply with a qualified therapist. The biggest thing is that you feel you connect with that therapist. You see so many people try therapy and say, oh, I didn't like therapists, I'm not going back, it's not for me. And that's heartbreaking because, you know, it's like trying different foods. It's like trying anything in life. Sometimes we've got to try a few times. Different modalities work really well for some people, and others prefer different modalities. So it's all about getting to know what works for you and keep going until you find that therapeutic connection. The therapy group that I belong to now, and I belong to quite a few, but the one that is my go-to all the time is a group on Facebook called Good Enough Counsellors. Good Enough Counsellors is headed up by Josephine Hughes, who is an amazing person, and she has her own podcast as well, where she talks about really, really important and topical information. So for me, Good Enough Counsellors is my place where I've experienced therapists are kind and supportive. So those are the two things, is when you're training, get yourself onto a platform where you can be asking these questions. And when you're qualified, the same applies. We are, as a therapist, we're our only tool. We sit in front of the client and we are everything in that room. But behind the scenes, what is so important is to get your tribe around you. So for me personally, my personal therapy. I would never, ever be without my personal therapy. That keeps me grounded and balanced as a person. I'm not sure if this is because I'm a therapist or just because of my journey, but the more I learn, the more I want to learn, and the better I want to be at being me. So for me, it's personal therapy, keeps me healthy. It's supervision, an absolute asset in your work. And the forums around me, YouTube, different programs, different books, authors, podcasts, and then self-care as well. So making sure that I don't burn out, because if I burn out, I can't be there for clients. And so that's the big tribe that I have going on behind the scenes. And that is really, really important, especially when you're a trainee therapist. You may not have these tribes established yet. So that's one bit of advice I would give you, is to start establishing your tribe. We also have this saying in therapy where we say you can't date a client. It's not ethically, obviously you can't date a client, that would be unethical. But who we have in our lives and our relationships in our lives are really, really important to us being able to be in a place where we can hold clients and we don't have home life or friendships or things like that kind of are as traumatic as clients' life and our work that we work in. Obviously, that's easier said than done. And a lot of the training, we used to say that the training is almost like an SAS course for the mind. It is really intense. It is set up in such a clever way to almost to trigger what needs to be triggered, to push those buttons within you. But as a trainee therapist as a trainee therapist, especially on your training, you do start to, a lot of the time, evaluate your life, evaluate relationships in your life. And it can be really hard going on the trainee therapist as well, because not only are you becoming a therapist, you don't train to become a therapist. We become a therapist, if that makes sense. You can't switch it off. You can to a degree, but something in you changes, and it really can be taxing on you as a person. I think there is, I'm not sure of the stats, but I remember us talking about it in our training and about how common it is to have relationships break down around you while you're in your training, and the toll that takes on you. So again, your personal counselling at that stage is really that bedrock to support you and to allow you to get to know yourself more. I actually did my dissertation on this topic because I became so passionate about it. I think, again, it was Jung who said that a therapist can't go with a client where they refuse to go within themselves. And so basically what that means is the more we are courageous enough to go within ourselves and look at shadows and areas within us that we really don't want to look at, the more equipped you are to be able to feel safe to go there with clients. And what you can find is if there's areas of your life that you don't want to look at, it's like, I don't want to see that. When a client brings that to you, you can feel this almost pushback of, I don't want to go there. I'm not going there with that client. We're just going to let that slide. And again, part of this is normal because our clients do bring us our work. They bring us our work within ourselves as well. It's so synchronized at times. It's mind-blowing. So many times I have been working through something in my personal life, and then literally the next week, a client has come in with the exact same experience. And again, that's where your counseling, your own reflective work within yourself and your supervision is your absolute safety brakes, so that you can go, oh wow, this is really close to what's going on with me. Let it come through, and then put yourself out the window and it be about the client and get into the client's reference. So that's the first thing I wanted to kind of touch on, was about your support teams and your tribes around you. Really, really important. Second of all, I've had so many questions. So, I mean, there are so many questions here. It's just phenomenal. Second question was about nerves. Sorry. It is normal to feel nerves. You're going to feel nervous. This is massive. This is also part of what you've been building up to. You've become used to probably being the client, and to jump over into the therapist chair is a massive deal. And that's why you're feeling nervous. It's big, but it's exciting. And this is what you've been working towards. And when your client walks into that room, I want you to remember what it felt like when you walked into your first therapy session, because I can guarantee you, if it's your first session, your client doesn't know that it's your first session. Only you do. Your client is going to be feeling even more nervous than you are. They are about to talk to a complete stranger, and all you need to do in the first session is hold that client. Hold them, listen to them, show empathy, connect with them. You are building that relationship in the first 1 or 2 sessions. And so don't put the pressure on yourself. You don't need to perform. Trust the client. So anybody who's been a parent will know that there's this well-known saying of, when you have a baby, your baby will show you the way. Not always the case, but we can equate this to client work as well, is trust your client. You have your theory, you have your supervision, you've got your tribes. Your client will show you the way, where they are, and you go from that. Especially if you are a person-centered therapist, you are with that client every step of the way. When they take a step, you take a step with them. If they go back, you go back with them. It's all good. If we're going to sit in the mud together, we're sitting in the mud together. It's fine. So what you need to do, or what I would suggest you do, is have a word with yourself before you go in. And tell that inner child, it's okay to be nervous. It's normal to be nervous. Remember, nerves have the exact same physical feeling as excitement, okay? And a lot of the time, especially if we've struggled with anxiety, we can become terrified of that feeling. But sometimes it's good to separate it. So I'm nervous because this is huge, validated. And also I'm excited because this is what I've been working towards the entire time. Be kind to yourself and take the pressure off. You are going to walk out of that session feeling so proud of yourself. And it's just going to be the best feeling ever. Anything that comes up, you take to your personal counselling or your supervisor. If you've got a counselling manager, you take it to them. But you're not alone. You're doing this with a team around you. So nerves are normal. And you know what? What I found in my life, I have had a history of severe anxiety. I mean, I'm talking panic attacks. I'm talking crippling anxiety. And even though my anxiety is really, it's in a good place. Anxiety and I, we're in an agreeable, kind relationship with each other at the moment. But there are times when it comes up. And the one thing I found, I think everybody handles their anxiety differently, but for me, if I'm feeling anxious, I have to get it out the way. I spent years trying to push it down and hide it, and my lip would be quivering, and I couldn't speak, and I'm going, couldn't hear anything, and traumatizing. And what I found actually helps is to just be human. And so sometimes when clients come in, if I know it's going to be a big session, or I know there's quite a lot of emotion and energy behind the session, and I feel these nerves coming up, the first question I'm asking is that some transference, counter-transference happening in the room? Is that maybe how the client's feeling as well? But what I do as a qualified therapist is I say, how are you feeling being here today? And the majority of the time, they'll say either, I'm okay, you'll see they're not, or they'll say they're anxious. And what I say is, yeah, I feel that anxiety too. I feel it. I wonder what that's about. Or I say, I don't know, I'm feeling nervous today. This is big, isn't it? Are you feeling nervous? It's a big thing to be here. Normalise it, talk about it. Because the anxiety, as soon as you normalise it and validate it, seems to drop away. But a lot of the time, we pick up clients' emotions as well. It is the transference, counter-transference. They pick up our emotions too. If we're kind of pushing back from them, they can feel that a lot. And so just talking about what's in the room really kind of starts to help move along the emotions. So with nerves, remember you are human, okay? I know I keep saying that, but it's true. And I think that is the one amazing thing when we train in therapy. We're not training against the medical model. So you can take that pressure off you to show up as a medical professional and, you know, very boundaried, and you can be a human being, a professional, but a human as well. And that goes a really long way with building that relationship with clients. Right. I tend to ramble on, so let's keep it moving. Right, okay. So, any books of real-life counselling experiences that you can recommend? So, when I was a trainee, the book that I used to listen to on Audible all the time was I Think You Should Talk to Somebody, or Maybe You Should Talk to Somebody by Laurie Gottlieb. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. You're in the therapy room with her. You're hearing about her life. You're hearing about clients. That, for me, used to be my nighttime listening to, that I used to go to sleep, because I just needed to kind of feel what it feels like to be a therapist. So that was my one. What I used to also do was watch on TV. So I think there's celebrities in counselling sessions that you can watch on, I think it was Channel 4. I'm not sure. But just search for therapy, live therapy, all over the place. And all the different programs will come up. Of course, we know couples therapy with Dr. Orna. Amazing. The only thing I would say about watching real life therapists is to remember that they will all be trained in different modalities. And so as you're a trainee, you have most of your sessions recorded with a client's permission. And it's kind of like when you learn to drive. You want to learn the proper way and then find your feet of your driving style once you're driving. So it's not to say don't watch them, absolutely. But just be aware that some of the things that you may see trained therapists doing, they've had a lot of training or a lot of experience on going to these different places or using these different terms, or being a bit more direct with clients, and knowing what to do and how to put the emergency brake on if there's a wobble. So that's all I would say, is to just keep in mind that you don't go off your modality. But the latest book that's come about just a few months ago is by an author and a therapist as well, Joshua Fletcher. And what it's called is How Does That Make You Feel? And that is it's a really good book. It's really funny. It's real. It's so real. It's a really good listen or read about just what's going through the counsellor's mind at times, real situations that occur in the counselling room. It makes you feel very human as a therapist. And I think that has been my biggest learning, is that we go in and we think, we have to be this person. Yes, you do, of course, in front of your client, professionally and ethically. You know, we have a lot of responsibility in our hands, but there's a lot of things that happen as a therapist. You've got so many voices in your head. For example, you've got your own internal supervisor, your personal counsellor, your inner child, maybe your prejudice, maybe your judgment, your critical parent voice of, oh, well, I don't think that was the right thing to say, towards yourself, towards the client sometimes. This is not to say that we judge. We don't judge clients, but we all have prejudices. What therapists do, good therapists do, is they notice those things. They notice and they go, what was that? What is that about? And we go away and we go to our team, our tribe, and we figure it out for ourselves. And so yeah, those would be the good reads that I would recommend.